Billionaire Harlan Crow bought property from Clarence Thomas. The justice didn't disclose the deal. Now, last week we talked about him getting gifts. Well, possible gifts. Maybe they were just people. Just it might have been his buddy inviting him onto his boat. This is a step beyond that. Harlan
Yes, it
Crow
is.
bought that property. By law, Clarence Thomas must declare it, and he didn't.
Boy, oh boy. That one could be a sinker for him then, I
Uh,
think.
I think so too. Um, let's see.
The other
2000.
one's easy to at least
They're they're
defend against.
ethically a little bit here, a little bit there. Maybe it's just him inviting his friend on his boat. Maybe he just flew him out to do a fun thing, and there's a little bit of wiggle room there. It's not great ethically, but there's wiggle room. There's something to discuss there. Um, but this one, he just didn't do the thing
Yeah,
he was supposed to do.
this one's definitely not looking so good, I'll say.
His mother continues to live on that land. Justice Thomas's mother lives there, paying no rent. I know they. I don't think this. Uh, the purchase put Crow in an unusual position. He now owned the house where the justice's elderly mother was living. Soon after the sale was completed, contractors began work on tens of thousands of dollars of improvements on the two-bedroom, one-bathroom house, which looks out on orchard trees. That's fine. Renovations include a carport, repaired roof, new fence, gates, according to city permits and blueprints. A federal disclosure law passed after Watergate requires justices and other officials to disclose the details of most real estate sales over $1,000. Thomas never disclosed his sale of the Savannah properties. This appears to be a violation of the law, four ethics law experts told ProPublica. So,
Yeah, he's fucked. If that's all true, he's fucked.
only, only if the other two branches do a check and balance on him.
They will.
And
The other two
I,
branches are run by the left.
not the House. I mean, the House is Republican House right now, right? We've got a
We're
Republican
thinking
Speaker of
it
the House.
backwards.
Now, the Speaker of the House
Oh, yeah,
is a
yeah, yeah.
Republican.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
The Senate is what,
Senate's 50-50 down the
50-50.
line. Yeah,
The executive is Biden.
left. Yeah.
Um, I don't think anything comes of it. I think the people who complain about it will be people like me. People on the left are going to say, hey, this guy is broken the law. Are we going to do anything about it? And the Democrats are going to be like, we only got 50% of the Senate and we don't have the House. So one of the three branches will try to check and balance it, maybe, if they think that the second, being the legislative, will back them up, and they won't.
Okay. This is
I
where I will say that your Democrats need to do their job
Yes, I agree.
and push for things.
They
Unfortunately,
should.
you vote for people that do nothing.
I
Um,
don't have a choice. Those are my choices. Vote for the Democrat who does nothing, or vote for the Republican who does the wrong things. Those are my options. I can do nothing, or I can do the wrong thing. Uh,
I mean, I won't defend this.
mhm.
Uh, he,
Yeah, I didn't think you would. Yeah.
yeah, that's this is a little too much.
Mr. Groh said, my intention is to one day create a public museum at the Thomas home dedicated to the telling story of our nation's second black Supreme Court justice. I approached the Thomas family about my desire to maintain the historic site so future generations could learn about the inspiring life of one of our greatest Americans.
And also, how much did he buy it for?
133,000, I want to say. Yeah, 133 at
Oh,
the time in 2014, and then he did tens of thousands of dollars of improvements on it. And technically, he's letting the resident live there without paying any rent
that is
for
true.
for
But
since
well, this
2014.
is
I mean, I guess you're allowed to let people live on your land for no rent, but it is kind of an odd thing, you know?
yeah. It shouldn't have been. It definitely should have been disclosed.
Hmm.
133,000 is less than the salary of a Supreme Court justice, I think, for a
Right.
year.
Right.
So it's not even that much money. The improvements are where I would start questioning things. Like, if you are trying to do a historical museum type deal,
Hmm.
why would you make improvements to it if you're trying to show like what the life looked like for this person?
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
So you're suggesting Harlan Crow is saying an untrue thing to get
Yeah,
out of
I
trouble.
am. Yeah. Uh, all those improvements definitely it the preservation of a historical site has very stringent requirements, and obviously it's not designated as a historical site. That's he bought it and is making improvements to it. Historical sites have rules around them for preservation,
Hmm.
um, which all these improvements would not be preservation. Um, they're actual changes to the site. So I don't think that he's necessarily telling the truth
Okay.
here, because if you were doing a historical site, um, you wouldn't make a lot of changes to it because you would want to show how it was
Hmm.
at the time when history was being made. For example, but
Right. You'd want it to stay the same as it was. Uh,
yeah, exactly.
he it's suggested that he also overpaid for the property. Crow
Which
also,
is
which is
possible.
how you bribe people in the upper levels of society. You don't just give them a briefcase full of cash. You buy their property for way too much. I think that's a thing Donald Trump has done before, or people have done for him. Um, Crow also bought several other properties on the street and paid significantly less than his deal with the Thomases. One an example, in 2013, he bought a pair of properties on the same block, a vacant lot and a small house for 40,000 in that same block, right down the street. If I was hearing somebody suggesting that they, the justice's mother, thought that the neighbors were too noisy, so Crow bought it from them, the noisy neighbors, and then tore the house down so that she could have a nicer, bigger area. That is
Interesting.
speculation, though.
I would say in 2013, if you can buy two properties on this block for 40,000, and in 2014 you bought this property for 135,000 or 133,000. Hmm,
So he's
that's suspect.
so
Now,
he's that's the
although to be fair,
mhm.
uh, what was the condition of the other properties that he bought? So he bought a vacant lot, it sounds like, and
Yeah.
then he bought a small house.
Hmm.
What's the condition of that house? Is it one that, and also, this is Virginia, right? Uh,
Yeah, Georgia, Savannah, Georgia.
Georgia. So he bought a vacant lot, which is necessarily going to be cheaper because there's no house on that property. Um, and then he bought a small house. But what was the condition of that house? Was it one that would have necessarily required that it be demolished anyway? Right? Because then you're talking about actually a reduced expense at that point where you're not even buying the house, you're buying another vacant lot. Um, but you also have to uh, have the expense of demolishing the unlivable house now.
Hmm. It's
But
entirely possible that it was cheaper, but if you're going to bribe somebody, you would pay them too much for their land and then improve it for free, and then let his mother stay there for free and not pay any rent. I think this is definitely corruption. This is definitely
Yeah.
a bribe.
Like Kyle says, I will definitely say this is super sus.
And if
Uh,
the Democrats had any balls, they would push it. They would uh,
I would if I was a Democrat. Hell yeah,
uh,
fucking fucking do it.
you push it. Suggest that he needs to step down. Have uh, Biden himself say, "I want your resignation, sir." Like, bring him into the office and tell him ahead of time, "Hey, you going to resign? No? Okay. Well, I'm going to go on the cameras and tell you, I want you to resign." Uh, and use it as a. And if you can't get any actual support, if you can't get the legislature on board, you use this as a reason to vote for you next time. You should use this as a explanation on why people need to vote Democrat. That's what they ought to do. Hey, you can't let the House be a
Well,
Republican House
let's
because we're going to hire, because here's what we want to do. We want to
let's
be in
not
charge of the
get out of hand
House.
here.
I know. Using bad things that the other team has done to suggest that you need to be elected. Why aren't the Democrat strategists as smart as me? But honestly, I think nothing will happen. We'll do nothing. The
Maybe.
the
I do believe that this um, actually now has a lawsuit over it.
yep
Yeah,
the civil and criminal complaint against Clarence Thomas.
yeah. So we'll see if anything comes about onto this.
Uh,
I think that it might start to have teeth here.
yeah, I think it was a couple of Democratic senators have suggested that Thomas or no who's in charge of the Supreme Court? Um, Roberts. There you go. That
So
Roberts ought to investigate it, find out what's going on, put out a report, and if he and then just let it be. And that's I think most likely going to happen is that Roberts will investigate, say here's the thing, okay, we're going to have him file these forms, problem solved, and then everybody's just going to move on.
possibly, we'll see. Um, I think that if I take all this at face value, uh, even the Supreme Court is not um, immune to the rule of law, right?
I would hope so.
So I would say that even in this case, or rather, in this case, we should have some form of recourse. Um,
The other two parts, the three parts, the executive, legislative, and judicial, the other two should be like, hey, check and balance.
right. Well, it's not my fault that you vote for guys that suck.
I know it's not your fault that I vote for guys that suck. I just don't have much choice. Here is Justice Thomas's statement. Early in my tenure at the court, I sought guidance from my colleagues and others in the judiciary, and was advised that the sort of personal hospitality from close personal friends who did not have business before the court was not reportable. I have endeavored to follow the counsel throughout my tenure and have always sought to comply with the disclosure guidelines. He asked around the office, you know.
This was
He
one of
he
those
vibe
ones.
checked. He checked the vibes, you know. And you know what? It seems legal. Probably is.
Everyone does that.
It's not like everyone does that who isn't literally the highest judge in the world. He has law books. I bet if I look up his photo, there's going to be law books behind him. Maybe he should open one of those books and read them and find out if the thing
I don't
he's
see any
done
books.
is illegal. There's no books. He's not he's a judge, not in charge. See,
You're
this is the
wrong.
problem. This is the problem. This proves the problem. He's not got all those law books behind him.
Damn it if you do, damn if you don't. You got those
Right.
books behind you, better read them.
Better
You
read
don't have the
them.
books?
Don't have the books? Get the books.
Get them.
Get the books and then read them. If anybody's going to read those law books, it ought to be this guy. If anybody's going to know the law or see a situation that they don't know, if I swear to
I
God,
love it, dude. That was too perfect.
no books.
He's gonna
This is
have
the
books behind
problem.
him. You Google him. No books.
No books. He needs the books because he didn't have the book, so he just
Are
went.
you implying that he didn't read the books?
I'm implying that he didn't read the books. He sought guidance from his colleagues and others in the judiciary. He asked around the office, "Hey, you guys." He just checked the vibes. He vibe checked. "Hey, you guys think this is legal?"
Oh,
Okay. I guess it is. If it feels legal, it just feels pretty good.
everyone vibe checks at their office.
Everybody vibe checks at their office. Yes,
Everyone does it,
if you're a hairdresser, that's
including Supreme
fine.
Court justices.
If you're a hairdresser, that's fine. If you're a
Everyone vibe checks at the House of Representatives. Everyone vibe checks at the DOJ.
everybody
Everyone
just
does
vibe
it.
checks. Vibe checks. I mean, if you're a hairdresser or a pizza delivery guy, you can vibe check around the office. I'm on board. But
Kyle says, regardless of politics, rule of law, uphold that shit. I agree.
yeah, don't vibe check. If you're on the Supreme Court, you shouldn't be vibe checking. You should like open a book and find out and make a decision. I would assume that if a novel law problem came up to this guy, he would either comprehend it or look it up to find out what the rules are. Like, that's his job. He's the rules lawyer, he's the rules guy. This is his purpose within the entire establishment of the country. He is look at the rules, find out what they are. Hey, we found a weird loophole or something odd or something that we're not entirely sure how to interpret within those rules. Can you give us a suggestion? And that's his idea. That's his purpose. Yes, Kyle, his wife is a nightmare as well. Um, she is a QAnon loon who does very sus things. Going right down to the important part, which is, controversy. No, there's not a controversy tab on this one. The call to action instructed members to pressure Republican lawmakers into challenging the election results and appointing alternative slates of electors. Ginny Thomas, wife of Clarence Thomas, tried to overturn the 2020 election. She did. She promoted Stop the Steal rally on Facebook. You know, she's a bad person. She's doing bad things. But it's fine because nobody cares. Because he just gets to do whatever he wants. Apparently, we're all ruled by vibe checks. I want Joe Biden to have the balls to say, you need to step down. And if the guy refuses, you go on TV, you talk about how it needs to be stepped down. And if that fails, you make it an election
Well, here's a question.
issue. Sure.
If he fails to do that, if he doesn't,
Mhm.
you still gonna vote for him?
Who? Joe Biden?
Uh-huh.
Against Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump? Yes. Because the do nothing is better
Then
than
Joe
the do
Biden
wrong.
doesn't give a then Joe Biden doesn't give a fuck about what
I
you
know.
want him to do.
I know. And you're in the same boat. There's lots of things you disagree with Donald Trump on, but you're going to vote for him over Joe Biden. And
Oh, well, that's very true. Yeah.
yeah, so there's lots of things I disagree with Biden on, but I have to vote for him over Donald Trump. The do nothing is better than the do wrong. Standing still is a better situation than doing the wrong thing. If he refuses to step down, Joe Biden should make it an election issue. Hey, we need more Democrats who are going to pressure this guy to step down. If the entire legislature and the entire House and the entire executive are all pressuring him to step down, it makes it more likely because that is the check and the balance.
That could be bad strategy.
How do you think that's a bad strategy?
Because the Republicans will turn around and say, They are trying to steal the Supreme Court, and
Republicans steal the Supreme
they
Court all the damn time. They did it.
no, they don't.
They did it too. They did. McConnell stole Obama's last pick.
Garland,
Yes,
he didn't steal that though.
he
He just
literally
refused
did.
to do
Who
the hearings or
refused to do
whatever.
it? And what happens if there were a Republican Senate right now and there's, but he, okay, McConnell 100% stole that, lied his ass off, and bent the rules and changed the rules to get him get what he wanted. Obama only had 1 year left, or maybe a little more than a year, and McConnell's like, no, 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 we can't do it in an election year. And
It
then
was less than a year.
it was the election year. I think it was about a year. It was close to a year, and it was months before
He
RBG.
stalled. That's what he did. He
He
stalled.
stalled, right, which
Yeah.
should be against the rules. He stole it. He stole it by stalling. Stalling was the tactic he used to get his end, which was stealing.
I mean,
And then it was
in the
how,
end, if
and
you really
then
wanted
it was
with
an
Merrick
election
Garland as
year.
the Supreme Court justice, you could have just, you know, voted Hillary in. But
Yeah, I agree. We should have voted for Hillary. The uh, and then in an election year, he gets Trump's final one passed a few months before Trump's reelection. He
oh yeah,
is
I know.
so
I know the whole
because
story.
he
I know it
is
was shicey as fuck.
duplicitous. He's shisty. He's duplicitous. He says
But it
X
was it
when
was
it's
shicey
hypocrite.
as fuck in my direction, so I'm okay with
Right. That's
it.
conservatism right there, baby. You just described it. It's
Oh, get
crooked
the
as
fuck out of
hell.
here.
That is
Oh
conservatism
no,
that's
no, 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 no.
defined. It's crooked, but it's crooked in my direction, so
That's
it's fine.
politics defined.
No.
Yes.
Uh, we can discuss that if you want later, but I'm saying that you just described uh, conservatism. But
Well, you're wrong.
I'm
You
wrong.
described politics.
Okay. So when I would suggest that that is an incorrect definition on your part because the Democrats cheat far less. They do it too, but not as a first response. They do it at the end when they're desperate and they have to.
Interesting. You know what? Actually, I'll save my rebuttal for that for if we ever actually talk about this.
Okay. Oh, hi. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button, press the subscribe button. Uh, if you want to tell me how right I am, feel free to leave a comment. If you want to tell me how wrong I am, leave a comment too. That's good. Um, this is just kind of a hobby for me, so I appreciate you coming by, giving it a watch, and pressing the YouTube buttons. Thanks.